Good evening. I'm Dave Clark, Operation Liberty for Kentucky and America, here with Republican Senate candidate Wesley Morgan. How you doing, Wesley? Good evening.
I'm doing fine, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm good. I think I hit the video twice there, but anyway.
Well, everyone's got to understand that you and I are novice on this, and when Josh decided he didn't want to do it anymore, it kind of left us out to do this, and it's up to us to do it. And I just hope that the audience appreciates the dilemma we've kind of got ourselves into. That we're trying to do our best and trying to get through this thing without making a total mess out of it. And I think we've done pretty good so far, but we have had a little flukes here and there. So I hope that I don't know where we were live before or not. I know it's mine said we were, but yours says we wasn't. So I have no idea. I'm sure the public can message us and let us know whether or not that we were actually live before. But this has been a pretty good week. It's just went by. We continue getting more and more county GOPs lined up to go talk to them. I got Jefferson County this week, and I will next week. I'll be in Carroll County on the 24th of October. I'll be talking to the Carroll County GOP. As you know, Dave, you went with me. We went to the White Sox for Homeless Veterans event at the Smyrna Inn in Louisville yesterday, and was hosted there by Wanda Tudor, a good friend and a good supporter in Louisville. I think she's living in Breckenridge County now, but she's originally from that area where Smyrna Inn is. So we went there and spent a couple hours, 2.5 hours with her, I believe it was, and talked to the owner and talked to several people there.
It's Wesley. That was really something that they do for the homeless vets there. We think about something as simple as socks, but isn't it sad when our federal government doesn't take care of our veterans, homeless veterans, any better than what they do?
Well, I mean, it's a disgrace, actually. If you really say it's not just sad, it's a disgrace that we would take and appropriate $4.5 billion to take care of illegal aliens, and we can't take care of the people that went out and has defended our liberty in this country. And it's actually a disgrace, and I don't feel good about it at all. And I think if there's anything to the people that was in Congress right now, I do not blame the president for this at all, because the president's 100% behind the veterans. He just can't get Congress to do anything. The Congress is a real problem.
You know what, Wesley? A disgrace, but it makes me mad. It makes me angry that we spend all this money to house illegal aliens and bring them in. And look, guys, I'm not trying to be unhumanitarian, but recently, Wesley, I know that a lot of people are upset because President Trump has pulled out of a civil war in Syria. A lot of people, I've had some Democratic friends say that he's abandoned our allies. But to be frank with you and honest, Wesley, since when is the American people supposed to police the entire world? We're spending billions of dollars, Wesley, and how do we bring that? We need to bring that money back home, just like our veterans. We shouldn't have any homeless veterans in the United States.
Well, I think what's going to come out, and I think the president has alluded to this, that a lot of this foreign aid and money being spent on foreign wars is money that is obviously appropriated to some extent in fighting that war or to foreign aid. But actually, there's a lot of it that's coming back in the form of foreign donations into these, the Clinton Foundation and some other, like the Bidens. It just came out today, I believe, that Ukraine actually has admitted now that they paid Joe Biden himself $900,000 as a lobbying fee, and him the vice president of the United States. Can you imagine that? I mean, how does it get any more corrupt than that? And And that's what's wrong with these lunatics in Congress. And I'm talking about both parties here, Dave. I'm not talking about just one.
Yeah,
About both parties. That they're sitting and just filling their pockets up and sending our American young men over there and young women, and they're being killed, and they're being maimed for life. I mean, can you imagine go over and getting your legs blown off and for nothing? It is a war that was perpetrated by our own Congress, by our own CIA, and these guys, they want to go and they're patriotic and they want to fight for their country, but their country, in my opinion, is not standing on their side or has not 100%. And
they should not send our soldiers, men and women, to die in harm's way. I'm sorry, Wesley, in my opinion, and I know that you agree with this, for someone else's civil war. I'm sorry.
We that's that nation building stuff that Obama and Bush, George W. Bush and Obama were doing, that building nations, and we can't do that. We don't sacrifice our young men and have them shed their blood for people that are in other foreign countries. I mean, let them take care of their own situation. Now, if it boiled over and got into a situation where we had to defend our own country, then yeah, that's probably okay. But I just believe we should bring all of our troops home. I know I'm going to be called an isolationist, and that's okay, because I believe it's time to bring all the troops from everywhere home, and be number one is to get back our sovereignty of this country and to defend our country, and then we'll worry about the other. The United Nations is running out of money, and thank God for that. Maybe they'll shut that thing down and get it out of here, because I'm certainly not a fan of the United Nations in any shape, form, or fashion, because I think if they're really the culprits that's responsible for most of what's going on in the world right now, that's bad.
I'll get some questions here and some thoughts. So let me, Blake Kennett writes in, thoughts on Rand Paul's new book.
Blake, I haven't seen it. I'm sorry. I've been busy with other things, and I have not seen that book. If you'll give me the title of it, I'll be sure and take a look at it for our next broadcast.
Awesome. Mandy Lynn, Ditch Mitch. Mandy Lynn Fugate.
Thanks, Mandy. I appreciate it. Mandy's a good supporter. She's been around quite a while, and I've met with her several times when I was state representative in Frankfurt and tried to help her out. She's got, she's a dog groomer, and she's very concerned with the way that they treat dogs and cats and animals, and which I am too. I'm an absolute strong supporter of not being cruel to animals. It's just ridiculous when people do this horrendous things to poor little defenseless dogs and cats, and it's just ridiculous.
The Johnny Calvin Emery says, "Go Wesley Morgan, great job."
Thanks, Johnny. I appreciate it.
Joyce Parker, Mr. Morgan, you're doing an awesome job.
Thank you, Joyce. I appreciate it very much. Joyce, all I'm trying to do is put out to the public what's really going on, and trying to do my best to contribute my part to that. And as I've stated many, many times, this is not about me. Running for United States Senate is nothing about me. I'm doing this because that we need to replace Mitch McConnell with a true constitutional conservative who will go to Washington, D.C. and stand up for the rights of not only the people of Kentucky, but the people of the United States, that we have to reclaim our constitutional government. And if we don't reclaim it, then it is just going to be filtered away until there's nothing left at all. I'm for going in and actually repealing a bunch of things that they've already done. And if the people of America would just put a handful of true constitutional conservatives into D.C. in this next election, you'll see dramatic improvement. And as we talked on the last show, we're being taxed to death. Our kids are being taken to foreign wars and killed for no reason. I couldn't sit and make all of this stuff up. I was born in 1950. And I was raised in a time to where it was just like the show on TV, and a lot of probably won't remember it. Leave It to Beaver and Father Knows Best and shows like that. And that's the way we were raised. Andy Griffith Show, Andy Mayberry. We were just a small town that was left alone and didn't have this massive bureaucracy just into every facet of your life, to the point that you feel so oppressed that you can't get through the day. It does something to you psychologically.
Yeah. I have a question here. Don Haney, why should we be paying to protect Syria border but leave the United States border unprotected?
Well, that's a doggone good question, Don. And I think we're all been saying that, and I don't think we've got a legitimate answer from anybody that's anybody's in Congress. Again, our president is trying his best to fix that situation. But every time the president tries to do something by executive order or whatever, he's getting blocked by one liberal judge that was appointed by Obama or Clinton or even the Bushes, to be truthful about it. And they're blocking him, and everything has to go to the Supreme Court, all the way to the Supreme Court, in order to get the remedy that's necessary. And one thing I want to kind of deviate here a little bit, though, Dave. I want to make sure that I point out to everyone that I will not be here next Sunday night or the Sunday after that. So we're actually, if you recall, my wife and her mother and her family had a cruise scheduled, and then the hurricane come in, and we it was canceled. I believe that's back. Lord, I can't even remember the date of it now. It's been so long, and we had to reschedule for October the 27th through November the 3rd. So it's almost time to go do that. In fact, that we leave next Sunday, and we'll be gone a week and come back the following Sunday. But I won't be available for either one of those two Sundays coming up. So Dave, I hope you can get Ellen and maybe someone else to fill in and talk about the issues and talk about our campaign and what we need to do in this campaign to win.
Blake Kennett, we appreciate you, and Mandy Lynn, Fugate, Johnny Calvin Emery, and Joyce Parker, Don Haney, for your questions and your support. And then here's another one from Bobby Smallwood. What is your opinion on Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff's trip to the Middle East?
Well, it'd be fine with me if they'd keep them over there. I hope it's a one-way ticket, but they're going over to find out about the money, because by Trump pulling out the troops, a lot of their money is going to be cut off, and that's what they know. That's what the problem is. It's that foreign money circulating back, coming back to our politicians in Washington. It's disgraceful.
Appreciate that. Philip Muncie, Mitch is the swamp monster.
Philip, Mitch is actually the plug in the swamp. And the only way you'll ever drain that swamp is to pull the plug. The plug has got to be pulled. And you pull that plug, and you'll see a bunch of the swamp creatures go down the drain. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you, Philip. Don Haney asked again, I think what he's trying to say, is foreign aid the easy way for politicians to receive kickbacks, Wesley?
Yeah, it certainly is. And if you read the Peter Schweitzer's book, Secret Empires, he makes the statement, and I think it's true, that we have a lot of laws that prevents politicians from doing a lot of bad things. Like they don't supposed to receive any kind of foreign contributions, but that law does not address their children or their wives. So that's what really is the reason for the Clinton Foundation, when they was getting all these hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. It was a way for foreign governments to use political influence by giving it to a foundation, and then that foundation was paying for all the living expenses and everything. I mean, look at Chelsea Clinton. She was drawing $900,000 a year salary right out of law school. She just gets out of law school, and she's not like us. She didn't start at $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 a year. She started $900,000 a year. I mean, can you imagine that? Can you imagine coming out of school and starting at $900,000 a year? I mean, it is pathetic, the graft that's going on. And you know, what do you think happened to the FBI? James Comey and Bob Mueller both were hired by big defense contracting companies and paid several $1,000,000. I mean, James Comey got a $6 million bonus working for one of the aircraft companies. I can't remember which one it was now, or off the top of my head. And then he leaves the FBI, goes and makes $6 million in a couple of years, and then comes back to the FBI. I mean, how do you think that corruption got started? And I mean, you've got to have some laws that change a lot of this. These backdoor apparatuses that are used for corruption, and that's how the FBI got corrupted. And I just don't know, without taking pretty much the whole top echelon off, I don't know how you're going to save the FBI. I mean, who trusts them? I certainly don't trust them. I don't trust any of them. I don't trust the IRS. I worked for the IRS for a while. I don't trust them. I don't trust the FBI. I don't trust any of them.
Blake Kennett said, would you also sponsor or co-sponsor a bill to audit the Fed, Wesley?
Absolutely, Blake. No question about it. I think if you audit the Fed, you'll find more corruption than you could ever shake a stick at. It's just, I believe that well, you know, the Fed's a corrupt organization anyway, because it is not. They put that name on it intentionally.
Oh, sure.
To make it look like it was federal. It was run by the federal government. It's not.
No.
It's not run. It's run by a cabal of world bankers. That's what it's run by. It's not run for the benefit of the people of the United States. And not only, I mean, the Fed is pretty much corrupted every banking situation in the world.
Absolutely.
And you know, we have to get rid of the Fed. We got to get rid of the International Monetary Fund. We got to get rid of the Council for Foreign Relations. All these things that were put together that does nothing but undermine our sovereignty as a nation, exactly, and undermine you know, the people's liberties. And I mean, the United Nations has been trying to do that for how long? We talk about Agenda 21 and them trying to take, you know, trying to have a worldwide registration of firearms in their treaty, because we had a Supreme Court decision that said that a treaty trumps the Constitution. Can you imagine that?
No.
It's unbelievable.
No, I cannot.
Well, I mean, that has to be reversed. So, I mean, they've literally went out there and tried to steal every bit of sovereignty and every bit of freedoms that we have. And, you know, and that is so odd, because probably the greatest nation that has ever been put on the face of the earth, the United States of America. And they have done nothing for 200 years other than try to destroy it. And the biggest thing happened over a little bit over 100 years ago in 1913, when they started electing senators by direct vote, when they instituted the Federal Reserve System, and when they instituted income tax on the people of America. And they had
Thomas Jefferson. They tried to assassinate Thomas Jefferson over that vote in 1913 that created the Federal Reserve. He was railing and voting against it and said, if we give the power of someone else to coin the money, I'm fearful for what the future may hold for the American people.
Yeah.
And they tried to assassinate him because he wouldn't vote for it. And,
yeah, well, I mean, you know, Andrew Jackson had a time with the central bank too.
Yep.
He had time keeping it out. You know, it took them another, 60 years before they finally got it in. I believe that we're heading in the direction of doing away with the Federal Reserve. I believe that is on the
agenda.
I believe it's on the agenda, and I really believe that a lot of this stuff depends on whether or not Donald Trump is reelected president of the United States. And I think that he's going to do a lot of this, and I believe, but you know, people, for some reason, American people have such a short attention span. And I really believe that's one of the reasons why they haven't done a lot of these arrests and stuff with these traitors and treasonous acts that these people have done against the president. That he's waiting to it affects the election, because he has to be reelected to straighten this country out. If he's not reelected, we're done.
Blake Kennett says the book, Ron Paul's book he was talking about earlier, the case is against socialism, is what the theme of the book is.
Well, I mean, I haven't read it, but I can tell you right now, I know what socialism is, and I know exactly. I mean, the very definition of let's not talk about socialism. Let's talk about national socialism. You know, national socialism is Nazis. That's what they are. And what that is that's a marriage between big corporations and the government. That is national socialism. Look it up, and you'll see that we got national socialism going on right now in this country, and we have to break up the marriage between large corporations and our government. That's what's killing every one of us. That's the reason why you're paying, 3-4 times for your prescription drugs that we're paying in America that no one else is paying that in the world. And think about that. And Mitch McConnell has voted on numerous occasions to block cheaper drugs coming in from Canada or other places, and
Yeah.
all you got to do, and again, we finally got our research done. I had a young man that went to the Northern Illinois University that helped me do a lot of this research. A lot of people across the country want Mitch McConnell gone, and they're pitching in and helping, and I think we can. They've got a good possible opportunity here to remove him because he is certainly a problem to this country.
Mandy Lynn Fugit says, vote Morgan, ditch Mitch, us first. You're absolutely right, Mandy. Kentuckians and Americans first for a change. We the people.
Well, if you open your eyes and look around and see what's going on, it doesn't take you very long to discover. I mean, even a lot of the Democrats are coming. They're opening their eyes and seeing what's going on. That these people are nuts. I mean, let's face it. The people that's in Washington up there right now has absolutely lost their mind. And this is, in my opinion, there's going to be some high treason cases. Watch what I'm making that prediction. Watch what I'm saying. There will be some cases of high treason.
Don Haney writes, asks him, politicians seem to use foreign aid as a means of funneling money back to themselves. Is this why we have so much foreign aid, Wesley?
That's correct. Absolutely correct. And I mean, the president was the one who got on this. I've just been following what the president's been doing, and leading into those investigation that's going on and how they started all this Russian collusion thing, and that's what it's going to come back, and it's opening up all the can of worms. In fact, this is going to bite all those guys in the butt by the time it's all over.
Mandy Lynn Fugate says, Hillary Clinton for jail.
I happen to agree with you, Andy. I sure do.
Mark Davis
I bet she's going to end up there too.
Mark Davis asked, do you think you can get a debate with McConnell, Wesley?
Absolutely not. There's no way he'll do that. I'll try. But we got a little something up our sleeve that we're going to pull out, and you'll be tickled with it that we're going to do about a debate with McConnell. But I just don't believe that he will ever. He won't even admit we're even running yet. They try to keep our name out of all the newspapers and TV stations and even they're like I said on previous episodes that there's some kind of block or something going on with my Facebook post and my campaign post because it's pretty much the same audience and you pick up a new one every once in a while, but we're learning and a lot of people that's coming on board in these other counties and stuff are starting to share this show and share stuff that we're posting that gets it out to other people.
Well, guys,
I just had a person the other day call me from a county out in the western part of Kentucky and said, "Hey, man, we heard about you. Thank God Almighty for you. We didn't know that anybody was running against Mitch. We want you to come talk to us." I said, "Yes, sir. I will be right there." And he gave me a date.
Again, guys, like or share the show with all your Facebook family and friends. That's the way to get the word out. And then Blake Kennett comes in. Every time the economy does good, the Fed either raises or lowers the interest rates to counter the act. Well, they want to keep us in line, Blake. I have to be honest with you. Wouldn't you agree, Wesley? And that
can you imagine that? Can you imagine that the bankers are controlling? I mean, think about that. They're loaning you money they don't even have. Mm-hmm. And they're charging you 5, 6, 7% interest on money they don't even have. And that, let me talk about something here that is close to my heart because my daughter has a excuse me, there's something noise in here. My daughter has a student loan, and they're charging her 7.5% interest. Can you imagine that?
And they've
I
already
the banks, if the banks can borrow it at 1% and charge you 6 or 7% for it.
well, look at all the big buildings downtown, Wesley, in most cities. Who owns them? You know?
Banks.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is look, and it just ain't a big building. It's a Taj Mahal.
Oh
It
yeah.
is, I mean, big wood like you know the most
Lawyers' offices,
what
fancy.
is it? What's the most expensive wood? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Oh, I have no idea.
Uh,
Cherry, Brazilian cherry. I don't know.
the most expensive wood. That's what it is. And big thick doors and
Oh yeah, marble floors and all.
go into anything. That's what you see.
Wanda's here.
Hi, Wanda. I just posted our video that we made yesterday, Wanda, on YouTube. So you can't hardly there's it's difficult listening to it because of the band behind it. But thank you, Wanda, very much for inviting us up there, and we did appreciate it. And we spent what time we could, and it's a good event, and I appreciate very much that you invited us.
Don Haney asked, "Did you attend the rally for pro-life?" I assume Wesley, he's talking about the Northern Kentucky rally for pro-life.
Yes, I did. In fact, you went with me, didn't you, Dave?
I did.
You went, the Celebration for Life in Northern Kentucky about, what was that, 2 weeks ago?
Uh-huh.
I also, now, I believe it was it Wednesday night? I went to Louisville and spoke to the Louisville Tea Party. And let me tell you, David, I know you've been there. When they allow me to speak, when they allow me to tell them what I know, these people are in shock when they hear the evidence that I have that what Mitch McConnell has done to them.
Mm-hmm.
They can't believe it.
Oh.
When I point out all these things that he's done, and but a lot of these places tries to censor me and tries to stop me from speaking because they don't want me to tell what Mitch has done because they're brainwashed.
No.
Mitch McConnell runs the party, and they're going to back that party no matter if it's going over a cliff.
Well, there's a lot of Democrats that are doing the same thing, Wesley. I've talked to them, and as you well know, kind of how we got started. I was they call them the old blue dog Southern Democrat, and we used to have conservative values in the Democratic Party. I know that sounds hard to believe this day and age, but this is not the same party it was 30 years ago. The Democratic Party is not, Wesley. I don't recognize the party of my family tree, so to speak, and that's why I changed over to Republican. And Wesley, don't get me wrong. There's things I don't agree with on the Republican side of some of the things they do sometimes too, because it's more for globalism and more for them getting richer than it is to support the Constitution and the people of America.
Well, what's wrong with the Republican Party is it's jumped in bed with the Chamber of Commerce for the United States Chamber of Commerce, and the United States Chamber of Commerce is for what for making money for people who have money, big money people.
Yeah.
And they don't care about the little guy. But they talk about the blue dog Democrats. If you remember 30, 40 years ago, it wasn't an issue about destroying our own government. We both were loyal to both were very patriotic towards America, Democrats and Republicans. It's just there was two different ideals of how we govern ourselves. But now, I mean, but I'll be honest with you. What I said before is the only thing saving the Republican Party is the Democrat Party because they went nuts.
Mary Ellen Stone says Marxism has destroyed the Democratic Party, and if we aren't careful, it will destroy the GOP too.
That is exactly right, Ellen. And Mary Ellen, she's been the vice chair of the Madison County GOP, and she knows and is as familiar with the Republican platforms and rules and so forth as anybody else is, and she knows that she sees it. She sees the handwriting on the wall just like I saw it. I was shocked to find out that there's as much corruption within my own party. That and you know what? Anytime you put a person like Mitch McConnell in charge and leave him there for 35 years, and he makes it difficult for anyone to have an opinion other than his, it's going to lead to that. What is it? Power corrupts and absolute power absolutely corrupts.
Yep.
Or something like that. I don't know if I made that quote exactly
no, you're right.
But it absolutely corrupts, and he's corrupt. And look at what he's done. I mean, he's got a wife that's made millions. Well, supposedly she didn't make any. That she didn't have anything to do with the business. They just happened to give her $54 million. If my family had 100 million, and I guess they could give me 54 million if they wanted to, as long as my husband was the Senate Majority Leader who's taking care of their business, I wouldn't see any problem with it. Would you?
No, not at all. Hey, go guys! Again, I put it up on the screen. MorganForSenate2020.com. Please go there, check out the website. Please sign up to volunteer, put up signs, make phone calls, whatever you can do. Bring food for some meetings. Get on there and request Wesley to come speak to your group. And Wanda Tudor said she agrees about the Chamber of Commerce. I never realized, Wanda, until Wesley and I got to talking. Wesley, you have talked about how bad the Chamber of Commerce is. And I'm like, as a business owner, I had no idea what some of the things that they stand for way out there. So
it's unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. All the dues that I paid to the Chamber of Commerce. And of course, I don't see anything wrong with my local chamber. They seem to be perfectly fine. It's once you get into that state and once you get into look at the guy who runs the Chamber of Commerce right now. He's controlling the Republican Party, and he was a liberal Democrat that ran against one of their Republican congressmen out in the western part of the state. Can you imagine that? I mean, I guess you gain power one way or the other. If you can't get elected, then you take over some big organization and they control the politicians with money.
Mandy Lynn Fugate says, have to share and like to break through algorithms set up against the conservative views. So guys, again, like and share in order to get through these algorithms that are set up against conservative views.
When this show comes on, I have my wife take my cell phone and start sharing with all the groups and all the people that's on my phone. And that we do that so we can get around the blocks and try to get this out to people so they can hear it and get it all across the state. Then if those people will share, then it gets out more and more and more. And one thing that I would like to mention that happened this Saturday was that I believe we picked up a good fundraiser. A guy from that was on President Trump's election team in 2016 has come on board and is going to help us do some fundraising. So it's like I said, but like we talked about before, it's going to take $1.5 million just for signs. So a statewide race like this is not cheap, and we need people that's out there to help raise money. We need money so we can buy signs and pay for gas going crisscrossing this state back and forth. We've raised some money. Most of it's from out of state. Mahogany, that was what I was trying to think of a while ago. Johnny, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I don't know why I couldn't think of it.
Mark Davis asked, and it's kind of a big question here, but I'll put it up quickly. Wes, everything will depend on you getting McConnell to answer these types of questions directly in a debate. I personally know that you're for all people, regardless of race, age, sexual orientation. The real issues are individual rights, individual ingenuity. How can you appeal to people of diversity in order to oust the globalist McConnell? Wow, Mark, great question.
Yeah. Mark, I really don't. I think that people are already against him. If you look at his approval rating, he only has a statewide approval rating of 33%. He's only 50-50 or a 50% approval rating among the Republican Party.
We can't bring it up, but there's conservativereview.com, which is a website that ranks the top 25 Republican in name only, rhinos, gives them a liberty score And since we're on Mitch McConnell, I think he's fourth down with a 36% a rating with 33 years in D.C. So
Now, remember what that is, a conservative review, that's a lifetime rating. And the number one rhino is Susan Collins, and the number two rhino is McCarthy.
yeah, McCoskey, Lisa, Senator.
McCraskey, the one that McConnell helped footed the bill for that write-in campaign to beat out that conservative in Alaska back in 2014. If y'all recall that, McConnell not only has he done everything he can to hurt this state, he has literally stuck his finger in the pie in states all over the nation, helping defeat conservatives and put his rhino buddies in there so they don't have to follow the Constitution.
Thank you, Johnny. We appreciate that. Linda Allen asked, explain what Mitch did to protect the corrupt media, Wesley.
Oh my Lord! I know I thought I'd tell this the other day, but there was a bill that was introduced in the 2012 Congress. It's called the Smith-Mundt MUNDT Modernization Act. Basically, what this is, in 1948, they passed a bill that said you could not use propaganda in the news media in the United States. You could not do that. Well, in 2012, there was a bill introduced and called it the Modernization Act that they repealed that prohibition and allows propaganda in the news media. That was slipped into, and you're going to find that they always take these bills that cannot be passed on their own, and they'll slip them into something like the National Defense Authorization Act. So in 2012, they slipped this into the 2013 National Defense Authorization Act, which is all the money that goes out to our military and so forth like that. So they repealed it. And that's how that these news media places like CNN and MSNBC and all of them can sit there night after night and completely lie their butts off, not with no repercussions whatsoever. And you can thank your senator from Kentucky for this. And then he turns around in 2016 after Donald Trump was elected president of the United States in November the 8th of 2016. Well, in December, McConnell slips into the 2017 National Defense Authorization Act. Now get this one, Countering Foreign Information and Propaganda Act. And what that did is that created a $160 million slush fund to be used by the Broadcasting Board of Directors, NBC, CBS, ABC, to censor conservative content in social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. And let me go back to that one in 2012 on that Smith-Mundt Act. That was also given to the authority of the Broadcasting Board of Directors, ABC, CBS. It's pathetic. It's pathetic what this man has done. This man has voted against the Second Amendment 9 times.
Don Haney asked, will term limits for politicians ever become a reality in our country, Wesley?
I don't think so. Until you, I don't see how it does it, because what you're expecting them to do is vote themselves out of a job, and I just don't think they'll do that. I'll be more than happy to vote for it. I'll give my solemn oath I will vote for it. But I'm an automatic term limit. You see, I don't have a 20-year or 30-year time to be in Congress. And
Davis says the real issue is super rich versus the lower class. It is not white versus, finishes up, race, gay versus straight, etc. And then he goes on to say, liberty is for all people. That's what separates America from every other country. McConnell is an elitist that keeps their game favored in their court.
That's absolutely right, Mark. And as you know, the real issue here is that what they do is they try to keep us fighting with each other. Black, white, Latino, gays,
Yeah.
whatever. They try to keep us against each other. And you know what? People don't understand it. That most conservatives, I know I'm one, and I know Dave. Listen, I'm not going to tell you how to run your life. Now I do have certain a code of morality that I follow, but somebody's going to have to make their own decision what they do, what's right or wrong, whatever. It's just like gay marriage. I'm not for gay marriage, but that doesn't mean I'm against gay people. In fact, I've made this comment before. Some of the best people I've ever hired at work in my company was gay. They would work.
I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I don't care whether you're black, white, or brown. You deserve to be left alone, Wesley, and have your independence under the Constitution, no matter what color, race, sex that you are, and what your sexual orientation is.
Well, if people would learn history, they would learn. For example, let's take black people, for example. If they would just know their history, there was so many black people that helped found this country. That helped found this state. They was black people who came with Daniel Boone and them lived in Boonesboro.
Yes.
That that helped found their entire country. Yes. So how could anybody say that they wasn't entitled?
Right.
I mean, they're entitled just like everybody else is. I mean, they fought the Indians. They done everything they could. So, and I don't have anything against the Indians. I think they're entitled to live their life too.
Well, we really screwed over the American Indians bad. You want to talk about it anyway. What are your top three, Nick Prochaska? I think I'm saying that right. What are your top three news outlets, since all three of them show fake news? That's a tough one.
Well, I watch a little bit of Fox, but that's all, and only very select programs. Most of them, thank God they got rid of Shepard Smith. He was an absolute communist, no doubt about it. I watch some Hannity, but he aggravates me to death because he keeps cutting his guests to be trying to tell him something, and he'll cut them off. Laura Ingraham is probably the best show. I watch that more as far as TV, but I watch very, very little TV. I watch the X22 report on YouTube and the Red Pill 78, and let's see, In Pursuit of Truth. And those things are independents. That's reporting the truth. Weeping Angels is good. Cyril Bring too. And these people are reporting the truth. And that's what you want, is the truth, because, if you have truth, you know where to go.
Johnny Calvin Emery says Senator McConnell was the reason Doug Jones beat Judge Roy Moore.
Absolutely. No question about it. Let's talk about Judge Roy Moore. Judge Roy Moore was Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court. Chief Justice. And they ruled, federal court ruled that they had to take the 10 Commandments off the Capitol building. And he refused to take it off. He refused. He said the states' rights overruled that. They never had any under the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment says that all the rights that is not enumerated in the Constitution is reserved for the states and for the people, and they actually didn't have the authority to have him to take those 10 Commandments down, which I agree with him 100%. And they actually threw him off the Alabama Supreme Court because of that. And then he runs for United States Senator, and McConnell and his dark money, they start trying to make a pedophile out of him. They did the same thing to Judge Moore that they did to Judge Kavanaugh when he's running for the Supreme Court. The exact same thing. It's the same game plan. And Mitch McConnell was behind that. And the reason he's behind it, the reason why he can do that is because, let's go to another little bill that slipped in. And when they did the spending bill in 2014, Mitch McConnell slipped in a campaign contribution reform that allowed rich people to, before this bill happened, you could contribute up to $32,400 to a party or a committee in the party. Well, after they slipped this into the spending bill, that was expanded 10 times to $324,000 that you could give, a rich person could give for example, the Republican Senatorial Fund. You can give them $324,000. So they use that money to undermine constitutional conservative candidates. And, if you've got somebody beating you to death in the news media, we're using that money that these people who they obviously are taken care of.
All right.
That's what happens.
Diana Sasmore says we need to get Wes out more in Eastern Kentucky. Diana, set us up. Wes will go.
Well, we're starting to get some feedback from some of the Eastern Kentucky counties. Our biggest problem is that a lot of these GOP organizations are loyal to the party, and the party's loyal to McConnell. And a lot of them don't want you to say anything. So, I'm here in Madison County. I made a request to speak before the Madison County GOP. I got a request back and said, "Yeah, that's fine. Come on down here. It's just I can't say anything about a person running for office." I said, "Well, if I can't speak, and tell you about the failures of my opponent, what's the point in me speaking?" I said, "I'll just take my case directly to the people."
Frankie King says a lot of shady stuff went on in the past. Vote Wesley Morgan. Thank you, Frankie.
Frankie. Appreciate it, brother.
And Nick says, thank you, Wesley, for answering your question on the news outlets.
Thank you, Nick.
Guys, again, appreciate you. Please like, share this everywhere with families and friends. We got about 12 minutes left. Please type your questions in for Wesley or comments.
Let's talk about what we're going to do, Dave. Dave and I have decided that we're going to start doing some 30-minute shows, and we're going to put them on topic. For example, we'll spend 30 minutes. Now, first thing we're going to do, though, we're going to post on our website all of the research that we have done on Mitch McConnell, all his voting record. And then once that's posted on our web page, then we're going to start doing 30-minute shows based directly about an issue. For example, we'll talk about a Second Amendment for 30 minutes. And then we will show you all the votes that Mitch McConnell has made against your right to bear arms. And we all know that we have an absolute right based on the Constitution, on the Second Amendment, to it says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, I don't know how you get any more plain than that. And people act like, well, it really is about a militia. No, it's not about no militia. A militia was what, like the people in Henderson, Kentucky did during the War of 1812.
Yes, sir.
When they called for the militia, which was really it was a people's reserve, is what it was. And all the citizens back then, when you fought Indians and you had people like tyrants like Britain trying to take us back over, you had to keep your guns and stuff. And so you never did not know when you would be called out. And that's what same thing today. But if the government gets too much of a tyrant, you got to go throw them out. But, so in 1812, Andrew Jackson called for Kentucky long riflemen to come and help him in the Battle of New Orleans. 100 men from Henderson, Kentucky, grabbed their rifles and headed to New Orleans, where they were on the front lines against the British. There were several of them killed. People, if you would just study history, you would see how it all lines up. And the problem is, if our schools are not teaching our kids this stuff, they don't have no way to know it. So eventually they can be fooled, and someone can tell them that they don't have these rights when they do have those rights. And that's how tyranny starts. So we've got to reclaim our our educational system. And just to give you an example, Mitch McConnell Uh, he voted for No Child Left Behind. He's part of the He's part of the problem in every part of the issues that we're facing. He's the problem.
Nick asked, Prohaska, I think I'm saying that right. Nick asked, what is the biggest bill that you would like to see changed if you were elected into the Senate, Wesley?
I would like to see the Patriot Act repealed.
Amen.
I think it's an absolute violation of the Fourth Amendment.
I agree.
This is how all of this stuff got started, where they've been eavesdropping on the president and everyone else in this country.
Right.
It needs to be gone, and it needs to go quickly.
Frankie King, if you get in, Wes, are you going to be more for the poor people? Just a question.
I will be for the lower class people, that myself and what I call common people.
Well, I call them blue collar people, people that go to work.
Well, yeah, blue collar and middle class. We're all forgotten, and these people just run roughshod over us. And now I'm gonna be honest with you. When we get up there, they're gonna be people trying to buy us, but they tried to do that before. I don't go by that. That you can't buy me. I'm too old to be bought, and I'm too much of a hardhead. I'm for the Constitution, and I'm for my country. And like I always say, there's three things that I will promise you will never be done. I will absolutely never betray my country. I will never take a bribe, and I will never cover up for someone else's crime, ever. And
Frankie, I think that's true. If you go back and look at Wesley's voting record when he was in a representative, he a lot of times did not vote, even with his own party, because the bill. And I go back to this one, Wesley, because it just appalled me when you told me about it, about the workers comp and disability bill, where they wanted the insurance company was lobbying to cut off somebody that was fully disabled after 15 years.
Well, that was actually being pushed by the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce.
Wow.
Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, who literally had a representative in the House Republican caucus. Now, can you imagine that? Had an office. He had a better office than mine. And he was representing the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, and he would help. And him and Jonathan Shell was big friends. And Jonathan Shell, we had made the mistake and voted him majority leader. And he was Jonathan Shell was deciding on what bills would be passed. And all of a sudden we have a bill come up on the docket that said that we were going to pass a bill on workmen's compensation that would limit benefits to 15 years for someone who was totally disabled on the job, if they got their disability from their job.
What do you say?
I can't vote for that.
No.
How in the world could I vote for that? I said, who in their right mind, what are you going to do? Take somebody who's had both his legs cut off, or his, we had one Democrat representative in the House that was actually his left arm was totally disabled. I mean, he couldn't even use it. And and I said, I absolutely won't do that. And we were able to. I refused to vote for it, and I think it failed. Pretty positive it failed.
So I think that says a lot, Frankie, about he's for the people, rich. I mean, middle class, poor, common people. For the most
part. Let's look at where I come from. So, I mean, let's talk about where I come from. I come from a little town in Kentucky called Hyden, Kentucky. We wasn't wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. We actually qualified for what they called back then commodities. It's surplus agricultural products is what it was. That's before they had food stamps or anything. And to be honest with you, it's real good food, but my father would not accept it because he said that there would never be a day that the government would have to raise his kids. He'd raise them himself. And so now he wouldn't be too proud to give somebody $5 for their box of cheese, but he would not take that cheese free. So that and you got to look at my grandfather and all. They worked in the coal mines. They come home black as they could be with coal dust. And I was raised like everybody out there is raised.
John Howard says Wesley Morgan will be more helpful to Eastern Kentucky than Mitch McConnell ever has been.
Absolutely.
Will.
I really will be. Listen, Eastern Kentucky is dear to my heart, and I will do everything I can to help Eastern Kentucky out of its plight, and no one else will ever help them the way I will. And I will help them get the necessary money in there to build a bunch of lakes and to move it toward tourism. And I will always defend coal. Just like I said, my family's been in the coal business forever. So I'm not. My dad owned a bunch of coal trucks that hauled coal. So
I'm going to put this up quick. It takes up a lot of our screen, but Mark Davis says, Wes, I sure hope you can get the media platform to get your campaign out to the people. With the politician Mitch McConnell supporting Trump, depending on which way the wind blows, it is imperative that you get more exposure. Was McConnell a never Trumper or at least close, he asked?
McConnell has always been a never Trumper. He was a never Trumper from the beginning. Don't you remember when Donald Trump was winning the Republican primaries, that they had that meeting down in North Carolina somewhere that McConnell and all of them gathered up and tried to figure out a way to stop him, and they couldn't stop him. And, he's always tried to undermine the president. The president knows it. He knows that McConnell is a rhino. He knows it, but the president is sort of caught between a catch-22 because how do you alienate the Senate Majority Leader as long as he's there? I mean, how do you do that? Because he doesn't want to, he's holding this impeachment thing over his head. And I can tell you, you better pray to God that it doesn't come down to a vote in the United States Senate, and there's one vote difference, because if there is, Mitch McConnell will vote to put him out. I can tell you right now he will.
John Kinney says, keep up the fight, Wesley.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Johnny Calvin, he said, tell Wesley I was at my family reunion today in Butler County, and I was pushing him hard. That was one of the big questions. Is he like the rest? Will he be bought? I told them not to believe he could ever be bought.
Ain't no way, Johnny. There's no way. And, doing is proven. And, of course, the people have, just like me, I've done the same thing, people. That's the reason I'm doing it. I never even got involved. I was 66 years old when I ran. No, 64. 64 years old when I first ran for House of Representatives in District 81. And lost that race and come back and won in 2016. But, I've supported people, gave them money, helped them, done everything you could think of. And what happens? They go in and they throw in with them. And I determined, that's the reason why I'm telling you that if I was going to throw in, I'd have thrown in the House of Representatives. I'd be still in the House of Representatives, but I refuse to throw in. And that's the reason why the Republican Party literally completely funded my opponent in the primary in 2018. They wanted me gone because I would not go along with the agenda. And you know what I got for that? And I wish to God there was a way that you could show this. And David, next time I will. I'll show you the picture of Jeff Hoover and Deanna Frazier. They sent me the day she was sworn in. They sent me a picture of taunting me, and it's ridiculous.
Guys, last question for the night is, John Howard, if you get in, what would you do about prison overcrowding, and what about nonviolent drug offenders?
Well, that is a hard question, John, because anytime you get to dealing in the drug issues, it becomes very difficult. Now, I guess I got to be careful what I say here, but I think we need to go back to work camps. And nonviolent people need to go to work camps. Violent people need to go to prison.
John, it is a hard question, and we need to go back to like Wesley says, to when prisons were prisons and not hotels. Nick says, if you can't get Kentucky, come get California. Thanks, Nick. We appreciate it.
Somebody's going to have to help with California, and I'm telling you that I don't know how you're going to do that and chop it off and let it float out in the ocean. I don't know.
But guys, Wesley, I appreciate you running and everything that I know that you're trying to do and stand for Kentuckians. And Want to thank everybody tonight that came and commented. Please, guys, again, like and share. Go to morganforsenate2020.com, sign up, get involved. And again, vote Wesley Morgan, U.S. Senate for Republican 2020. Wesley, any final parting words?
Yeah, just we need everyone that's watching this and everyone who's going to see it.
We lost video, Wesley. Hang on a minute. We lost video, Wesley.
You got it now?
Yeah, there you go. Now go ahead. Finish what you're going to say.
I apologize. My computer went dead for a second and then come back on. But I was going to say, whatever you do, share, because we need to get everyone aware that this is going on. Everyone, because all you got to do, there's like, well, the way Matt Bevin was when he ran in 2015, if y'all remember, basically if Matt Bevin would go somewhere and talk, he could get them. He could get them to come on his side. I know it didn't turn out for a lot of people the way they wanted it to turn out, but we did want to win 106 out of 120 counties, and I think that can be done in this race. To be honest with you, but I'll tell you, I will stay with my constitutional and conservative principles. I won't deviate from it one bit.
Thank you, Wesley. Good night, folks, and we'll see you next week here at 9 o'clock, where we'll have some mystery guests. If I can talk Ellen, she'll be on the show, and who knows? We, write in, email us, and you might be able to be on the next show if Wesley gone on vacation. Wesley,
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll be on that cruise ship somewhere, and I'll watch the show, okay?
There you go. That sounds good. Thank you, Wesley. Good night, folks.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. You